Howdy folks, this is OC from Digital Adventures. Got another great project for you today. This one's a little different as what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a prompt in ChatGPT to see how we could create a Geometry Dash game. So just going to scroll through what the response was from ChatGPT. It has us create controls and gravity, obstacle movement, collision detection, a scoring system, level design, sound effects and music, winning and losing conditions. So the code's not perfect in ChatGPT, but it does give us enough of a foundation to go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what we did here. So I'm going to click on full screen. I'm going to click on the green flag. And what we see is that we've got enemies that spawn, we've got a scrolling backdrop, and if we hit the enemy, the game is over. And so let's go ahead and see how this works. And what we have is we have a hero and an enemy and a backdrop. And so let's go ahead and get started programming this. So let's clear out this existing code first. And then we're going to start building. So get rid of all these things here. Let's go ahead and get started with our hero. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves a when green flag clicked. And then we're going to go into motion and we're going to get ourselves a go to XY. We want this starting at the left-hand side of the screen, so we're going to put in negative 214 and negative 154. And we also want this to always start off at pointing direction 90 degrees. We're going to set up a couple variables, so we're going to do a gravity variable. We're also going to add a jump height variable. And so the first thing that we want to do is we want to initialize both of these. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set gravity and we're going to set our jump height. So we're going to say that gravity is going to be a negative 2 to get started. And we don't want these to show up on our screen so they're not distracting. And we're going to set our jump height to 4.25. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves a forever loop. And inside that forever loop, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our motion for how our character moves. So first we're going to say we want our change x by to be 5. That's going to create that left to right movement. And then we're going to get a change y by. But we don't want change y to be fixed. What we want change y to be is based on that variable. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab jump height. And we're going to pop that in there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab two if-then conditional statements. We're going to place them in here. And for the first if-then conditional statement, we want it to be based on whether or not we're pressing the space bar. And this is going to activate that jump height. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, this is not jump height. We want this change y by to be based on gravity. So let's pop gravity in here. And then the next change y by is going to be based on jump height. So this one's going to be based on jump height, and the first one's going to be based on gravity. And then we're also going to add a little bit of a turn in here to create that rotating effect. So we're going to have it go by 1.5 degrees. The next thing that we want to do is we want to check our x position, if it's greater than 240 or not. And if our x position is greater than 240 for our hero, what we're going to do is we're going to have it reset to the beginning. So let's go and grab our x position. And then we're going to grab a go to XY. What we're going to do is we're going to reset that back to that negative 214 and negative 154 that we have to start with. And we're going to reset that pointing direction in case it got any rotation in there. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to set a boundary condition. So what we want to do is we're going to say if when the green flag is clicked, we're going to grab ourselves a forever loop, and we're going to nest an if-then conditional statement inside of there. And what this is going to do is we're going to be checking for whether or not we're touching the enemy. And if we're touching the enemy, what we're going to do is we're going to broadcast that the game is over. So we're going to grab this. We're going to call this a new message, and we're going to say game over. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say when we receive this game over message, what we're going to do is we're going to stop everything. So we're going to stop all. So that's all the code that we need for our hero. Now let's move on to our enemy. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to grab ourselves a when green flag clicked from events. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go into motion. We're going to grab ourselves a go to XY. We want this starting off at the right-hand side of the screen. And so we can see is we've got an x is 221 and the y is negative 161. Then what we're going to do is we're going to hide this so that we can create some clones of this. We're also going to make this a little smaller. So we're going to set our size to 50%. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves a forever loop. And then this forever loop, what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a wait block. And we're going to grab ourselves a create clone of myself block. In this wait block, what we want to do is we want to have this spawn randomly. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our range to a half a second to 2 seconds so that those enemies spawn sort of spontaneously. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves instructions for what we do when we start as a clone. So within events, what we're going to do, or within control, what we're going to do is say when I start as a clone, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show. And then after I show, I'm going to get myself a forever loop. And then inside that forever loop, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to move. And instead of it being a positive 10 steps, we want to go from right to left. So we're going to do a negative 5 steps. We're then going to get ourselves an if-then conditional statement. And we're going to look for our x position to be less than a certain value. And that less than, we're going to call it negative 230. And what that means is that we're basically at the left-hand side of the screen. So in order to do that, we're going to check for our x position. And then what we're going to do is once we get to that left-hand side of the screen, what we're going to do is in control, we're going to say delete this clone. And that's all the code that we need for our enemy. Now we're going to do our backdrop. So what you're going to notice is that this backdrop is, instead of it being an actual backdrop, we actually created a sprite of the backdrop. This is so that we can get some motion in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to events. We're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hide ourselves because we're going to create some clones. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into control, get ourselves a forever loop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a wait block. And then we're going to get ourselves a create clone of myself block. We want these clones to be created every 0.75 seconds. And we're going to see why that's important a little later. And what we're going to say is when I start off as a clone, the first thing I want to do is I want to show myself. And then from there, I'm going to go to a certain position. So we're going to have this go to 10, 0. And then we want to make sure that we're on the back layer so that we're not interfering with all the stuff that's going on the front layer with our hero and our enemy. So we're going to say go to back layer. And then we're going to get ourselves a forever loop. Inside this forever loop, what we're going to do is we're going to say we want this moving a negative 5 steps to have that scrolling background. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a wait block in here. We're going to have this wait 0.05 seconds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to be checking for our position. So we're going to get ourselves an equal block. We're going to set this to a negative 125. And we're going to be looking for our x position. And within that x position, what we're going to do is we're going to reset ourselves to go to 20, 0. What that's going to do is going to create a nice scrolling effect. Final thing we're going to do is we're going to go into backdrops, and we're going to have ourselves a when green flag clicked. We got ourselves a forever loop, and we're going to play this video game sound throughout this so that we have a nice little effect as we're playing the game. So let's click on full screen. Let's see how this works. And we see that we're scrolling. We see that the enemies are coming. We see that we've got this jump effect, and we see that we've got that rotation. So final time, and every time we get to the end, it resets. So hope you all enjoyed this project. This is a cool little game to allow us to do a simulated geometry dash with a prompt from ChatGPT. So hope you all enjoyed. If you like our content, give us a like, a comment, or a subscribe. We hope to see you back for the next one. Thank you so much.